Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Diddy's motion was denied. He asked to get the cases thrown out that he was convicted of and or a retrial. The motion was denied. People is already writing letters. Sentencing will be moving forward as scheduled on October 3rd, which is this Friday in 2 days. So tune in. Let's get this party started. All right. All right, you know what it is. All right, we're talking about Diddy today. We're going to get into it so that we can see what's going on. But before we go any further, I want you to understand one thing, that this is no game. This man is fighting for his life. All right? Now, they have been writing letters. They've been writing letters as far as why they should keep Diddy in jail. So we're going to have a little report on it. Let's see what's going on and who wrote letters and what they said. We're going to start with that. Then I'm going to break down what the Mann Act is and what the lawyers was filing, saying that it's outdated because it was created to lock up Jack Johnson back in 1910, which he did get locked up in 1913 because he was a wealthy black man that was beating him up in the ring. He was flamboyant. He was, had all the women, and he was showboating the white women, and flaunting them, saying that I got your woman and I knocked out your man. Because, they was looking for a great white hope back then. Remember Rocky Marciano? All right, let's get this thing started.
The prosecutors are asking that Diddy is sentenced to 135 months in federal prison. That comes out to be 11 years and 3 months. And as they are asking this, more letters are coming in asking that the judge does not release him on Friday at his sentencing. Y'all, we have letters from Cassie, from Mia, who testified under a pseudonym, from his former stylist, Deontay Nash, from Cassie's parents. And Deontay Nash came out and said, Your Honor, that's not a good man, referencing the letter that Young Miami wrote last week. The prosecutors also mentioned that Diddy knew that he was being investigated, and he still assaulted Jane months later, kicking down multiple doors trying to get to her. So then we look at these letters. Cassie's letter is up here first, and she is saying that she is learning that survivors and victims are never safe, and she is hoping that the judge sees what the jury could not see. Now, her parents write a letter saying that they don't want the judge to basically sentence him lightly because that is dismissive to all of the abuse and basically dismissive to her existence as a whole. Now, Capricorn Clark is saying that she does not see how after the jury heard everything that they heard, that they only found him guilty of the Mann Act, and she needs the judge to do the right thing. Now, Mia kind of went off on the deep end. She made a statement saying that she was not just a simple employee of Diddy's. She was basically being held captive. The reason why I say this is kind of on the deep end because she messaged and called him for years after he let her go, trying to get a job back, asking to be his friend, and even telling him that she had a crush on him. And his former stylist, Deontay Nash, letter did say that he is not a good man, Your Honor. However, it also said that he does not believe that Diddy should sit in jail forever. However, he should sit in there long enough to learn from his mistakes and give everybody else a chance to heal. Diddy's sentencing is Friday. There is no more pushing this back. As soon as I have some more information, I will let y'all know.
All right, so that's where we at right now, right? So we're going to pause that. So that's what's going on with Diddy. Now we're going to get into breaking down his case and what went on and things like that so you understand, so that you could get the history of it. Now, the background of the case, you already know Diddy was acquitted on ex-trafficking and racketeering. And he was convicted on 2 counts under the Mann Act, transportation individuals across state lines for prostitution. Each count carries up to 10 years, a total of 20 years. Sentences scheduled for October 3rd. As she just said, his lawyers filed a motion to dismiss those convictions before sentencing. Now, Diddy's legal motion and his arguments, right? What his lawyers argue is that they misapplied the law. they saying that the Mann Act wasn't designated for this type of conduct, right? And then they're saying that there was no coercion, because like I said, the Mann Act was created, to lock up, back then was black men and politicians. You could AI it, you could Google it, you could do what you want to do. So he's saying that it's outdated and they're using it now because they were trying to get Jack Johnson because he was having interracial relationships and he had an interracial marriage, with a white woman, and they were trying to take him down, and that's what they used. That's what this law was originally for, just to break it down so you understand, right? Now, so he's saying that there was no coercion or trafficking, meaning he didn't have to sweet talk nobody. It was no coercion, right? And he's saying the encounters were consensual, that everybody agreed to what happened. Now, he said that it was no prostitution in the classic sense. He's saying at worst, it was private sexual entertainment. That's what Diddy's arguing in the motion that just got denied yesterday, so you understand what's going on. It's framed as amateur porn. That's what Diddy's trying to call what he did. Like, he's making amateur porn, right? But, so he's saying that it wasn't organized trafficking. Now, they're saying that that the law is racist and outdated, that it was originally used in the early 1900s to target black men, right? Then they say consensual constitutional concerns. What they're concerns with, how it violates the Constitution, is that it was vague. The wording, there was wording in the statute like immoral purpose opens the door to abuse. So they like, what does immoral purpose mean? What's immoral when you have two consensual adults in 2025? That's what his lawyers argued. So the motion asks the judge two things, right? One, to overturn the convictions, right, because of the above, and two, to order a new trial. Now, why? Right? I'm going to get into why Diddy's side may be successful, when it's time for the appeal. And then I'm going to get into why the government may be, successful when it's time for the appeal. Because they will be an appeal if they hold them or give him more than the time served that he's highly anticipating. Now, let's talk about what they consider as the alleged racist history. Right? So they're saying that the defense can argue, right? They're saying defense can argue the law itself is tainted and outdated. Now, constitutional and contradiction in the verdicts, right? He's saying the verdict was contradiction. You don't really know where they went. So the jury said not guilty of trafficking, but guilty under the Mann Act, when the Mann Act is trafficking. So he's arguing, saying that if he was acquitted of the trafficking, how could he be convicted of the Mann Act, meaning taking somebody across state lines, if he was acquitted of, the sex trafficking part, right? Now, so the legal ambiguity in the law, this is what fits with Diddy and them. A moral purpose, right? They're saying it's vague. It's modern courts often narrow, old laws, right? Now, precedent. Now, other Mann Act, right? Other Mann Act appeals have reduced scope of the law in the past. So they've been trying to interpret it in the past, so you understand, right? So that now you got public opinion and pressure, right? That's what he's saying. He's saying some judges don't want to be remembered for leaning on a Jim Crow law era statute. In other words, a judge don't want to be the first one in 2025 to say, yeah, the law was racist. I mean, that's what the people say, but, some people, and, they're saying that they don't want to go there. The judges don't want that on their record that they're calling out racism in 2025. So that's why, I don't know if that's going to work right now, because some things that's just not going to change. Now, appellate opening, right? Now, this is where the opening comes in for the appeal. Even if the trial judge says no, which he did, right, the appeals court could agree later and say, no, it is outdated and, racist. Now, time served, right? Diddy already served 13 months in custody. The defense counsel is arguing that, that's punishment has already been, harsh for him to be in there that long for that crime, because no one else has been locked up for something like that. Now, here goes summary of the defense line, right? The Mann Act doesn't fit this case, is what the defense is saying, and keeping these convictions would be unfair in 2025. Why? It may be why it may be successful for the government. So now this is why the government may win, because I give you both sides of it. You know, we don't pick sides here. We just trying to report and let y'all know what it is as journalists and keep it moving. So now this is why, you know, the government may be successful on the prosecution side. The law is still valid. That's the bottom line. Bottom line is the statute still exists. The Mann Act statute still exists on the books, so they're entitled to charge them with it. That's where they standing at with it. Now, the Mann Act is on the books and regularly used in ex-crime cases. So it's not like Diddy's the only one they used it on. So we're not saying that. You know, they use it on other people as well. So, you know, that's in the government's favor. Clear elements met. The government is saying that the evidence was met because, you know, he transported women across state lines for paid X, right? And, you know, which is textbook the Mann Act. So, you know, the government got that down pat. Intent, right, doesn't matter. So Diddy's saying that he have to intend to get money, he intend to do this. So they're saying that the statute doesn't require coercion or trafficking, just travel for prostitution. In other words, if you know you're taking somebody across the state line to go give up the buns for, you know, a profit, you know, and that's a violation of the Mann Act, right? So you got modern use upheld, right? This is the modern use of it today in the courts. Courts consistently apply the Mann Act in consensual prostitution cases, you know, meaning she agreed to give up this act, you know, what she wasn't coerced, you know, that's the textbook form, right? The jury already decided. That's in the government's favor. The jury made a verdict. Once the jury makes a verdict, there's no one that's going to go in and go behind it and want to change it. So we're going to stop that. You know what I mean? So the jury already made its verdict. So a conviction means they found the government proved its case. That's why when the judge denied it, he said the evidence was overwhelming, you know, because the jury believed it. So we ain't even going to play that. Consistency with other prosecutions, right? So Diddy's saying that, you know, that this is not consistent with the way you treat other people that have this crime, and the government is saying that, nah, it is, because they're dismissing that now, that dismissing the case now could set a precedent undermining similar cases. So they're saying that if they deny, if they throw out the case and rule in Diddy's favor, the government is saying that other people that's already sentenced on this would, you know, have a new precedent to get back in court on and wind up going home, and some is more guilty than Diddy and guilty than others, and so on and so on. Now, high profile, right? Accountability, right? This is what they're saying, like that. This is the high probability that he's going to, you know, do this again, and this. So the government will argue Diddy shouldn't get special treatment because he's famous. That other people got locked up for it. If you rule that it's outdated and racist, whatever, and then now other cases is going to come in on it, so he shouldn't get preferential treatment because he's not the only one charged with it, and we haven't overturned it for no one, and that's it. Now, somewhere of the prosecution line. This is exactly the type of conduct the Mann Act covers, the prosecution said, and tossing it would weaken enforcement of sex crime laws. So that means you'll be taking away the power from the sex crime law, right? So you go, we're going to put it a side-by-side comparison, right? Diddy's side versus the government side. One, the law's outdated, racist, you know, roots is what Diddy's side is saying. The government's saying it's still valid under modern cases. So let's stop it, Diddy. Now, coercion. Now, remember, we're putting them side by side. Diddy's saying it's not trafficking. The government is saying coercion is not required, only transportation for prostitution. So if you knew they was going to sell that X, that means that, you know what I mean, you violated the act. Now, Diddy's side is saying that it's amateur porn, not pimping. You know what I mean? It's amateur porn, not pimping. Now, The government is saying it's paid X, and you took him across state line, so it fits the statute. End of story. Now, acquitted, right? Check it out. He's acquitted of trafficking, right? Check this out. So this Diddy say, lawyers say he's acquitted of trafficking. So how could you turn around and say that he took them across, state line to sell sex when he was acquitted of paying for the sex? Now, so he's saying that's inconsistent, Verse, the jury conviction proves, this is what the government is saying, that the jury conviction proves the elements were met. End of story. Now, they also say, Diddy side is saying that, the statute is vague, right? And the government said, no, it's open to abuse, right? It's open to abuse. Courts apply it consistently today, right? So that's where they at with that. Now, the appeals may overturn it, not dismissed. Dismissing would set bad precedent. So the government is saying that if the appellate court turn it over, it'll set bad precedent for everybody else to go in. Precedent means new standard. Now, public opinion, the law is unfair, relevant. That's what Diddy's lawyer is saying. That the law is unfair and it's dinosaur. It's prehistoric, right? So the government is saying public interests hold powerful accountable. In other words, they're going to hold the powerful accountable for their actions. Now, let's talk about what's at stake here, right? So what's at stake is, if dismissed, right, and granted, the conviction's gone, sentencing canceled. That's what would happen, right? But it didn't happen, so we're hoping, Diddy's team is hoping that it happens in the appellate court. If new trial is granted, right, it would delay the case and a chance to fight again. And we give them a whole other chance to go at the apple, right? So if the motion denied, right? The motion was denied, so the sentence is the third. Prosecution asks for 11 years in prison and $500,000 fine. That's what the prosecution want Diddy to get. Do you feel Diddy should get 11 years in prison for this? I know y'all didn't think about the little 500,000 that they trying to charge with, so we ain't gonna put that, but we're gonna ask you anyway. Do you think that he should have to pay the $500,000 fine? You know what I mean? And do you think that he should be doing 11 years in prison for this? Now, the defense is asking for 14 months total, and with the 11, 12 months he already got in, he got locked up November, so when he go in, that'll make it that he had 11 months in, which would be time served. Do you think Diddy should get time served, or do you think Diddy should get the 11 years? Speak on it. What do you think Diddy's sentence should be? Let's put it in the comments. Now, right? Either way, the motion strengthens the defense appeal strategy, right? Now, because, they're all ready for the appeal. Let's play devil's advocate, right? For the closing statement, right? For Diddy, right? This law doesn't belong in 2025 and it doesn't fit his case. Do you think that this law doesn't belong in 2025 and that it do not fit Diddy's case? It fits his case, or that it's valid, right? Now, for the government, right? They saying that the law is clear, the jury ruled, and no one is above the law. So do you believe what they're saying? Now, answer that question. Let's put it in the comments. Let's have a real conversation about this. Do you believe that the law is clear, the jury ruled, and no one is above the law, and Diddy should serve his time in prison? Now, Judge Subramanian, must weigh both sides. And you must weigh both sides. That's why I gave you both sides for you to choose from, because we don't pick sides over here at Unique Mecca Audio. We just report. And that decision could, decide if Diddy's walks free or faces a decade behind the prison walls. What do you think should happen to Diddy? That's what we need to know. Put it in the comments and make sure you subscribe to my brother, Real Boss TTTV over at YouTube. Please go to Real Boss TTTV, spelled just like that, and subscribe to my brother's page, and subscribe to my daughter's page, Unique Mecca Audio, and my other page, Unique Mecca Audio Prison Story, and Mecca Audio TV. Please just go over there and hit a subscribe, hit a notification bell, see what we got going on, show you supporting. And, because you know you need to hit the like button. And I always put my number on the screen. If there's something you want to say, or if you have content you feel that I should rule on, speak on, please send me the link, not a screenshot. A lot of y'all been sending me screenshots. Send me the link. And if you want me to say your name, that you was my producer for that show to find that content, put your name and your Instagram and I'll shout you out. But send it to the number on the screen. We got that? All right. Let's go.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
What?
Fresh out the can of 26, heat back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this.
Real.
Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. Did not pay attention, would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, make an audio.